And away we go. You dancing there, you got your little
absolutely.
dance going on at your desk. I love it.
That's right.
How are we doing?
Grabbing the bottle, get ready.
I love it. I love it.
Let's
You
go.
want to start off with a Syracuse and a Georgia Tech out the door there, Moen? Would that help you out?
It's got to be organic, Bomber. You can't.
It's my show. It's as organic as it's going to get. I appreciate everybody being here on a Tuesday night, everybody. Lots of news coming in from the last 5-6 days we're going to be talking about on the show. I appreciate everybody tuning in and being here with us. I'm your host, Nathan Bomber Brown, and with me are my co-hosts and partners. That would be the Wild Ute and Moen. How you guys doing tonight?
Doing fantastic.
If I was any better, I'd have to be twins to handle it.
I love that. That's a good one. That's a good one. I might have to try to steal that. I appreciate everybody being here. Make sure you follow us all on Twitter. Make sure you subscribe to the show on YouTube. Make sure you turn on your notifications on both YouTube and Twitter so you know when we post or when we do appointments for the show. And you're always here from the very beginning. And last but not least, consider becoming a member of the College Football Mafia Network. Moen, how does that work?
This is how it works. If you're feeling generous, you're feeling magnanimous, you're feeling grateful, go to the little cash icon at the bottom of the chat window. You can become a member. You can gift a membership. You can leave a super chat. All of those would be very much appreciated. It helps us keep the lights on around here, helps keeping me looking my best, helps keep me in Crown Royal. So please consider that. We will be having a members-only stream coming up shortly. I don't know if we're going to do that this week or next week,
I'm thinking we should do it this Friday.
All right.
I think we should do it Friday. Are you guys down?
Are we going to do it Friday? Okay.
Let's just go back to back, maybe a little bit on Friday night.
I'm just here for the ride. I'll be, if that's what you guys want to do, let's do it.
Maybe we should throw a poll out to see if the members wanted this Friday, a members only stream this Friday or the following Friday. We're going to do it on Miami. It's Miami and the Big 12 focal discussion and everything. It's going to be a really, really good one. Wild Ute University. So what do you want? Let's put it out there to everybody.
And it vote, don't vote is probably going to come Friday anyway. I think most people are going to want to see the Miami video. A lot of people have been chiming for it for a while, but yeah, please let us know. We can certainly move it down the road if people would like to wait a week. But I think probably more than likely we'll end up doing it this Friday. So let's see. We have the ACC judgment today against the ACC by the Florida court. We've had some more private equity talk and some other things going on with the math associated with what private equity can do. Tonight, in probably about 10 minutes, we're going to have our friend of the show, Bill Farley, is going to be here, and between him and Wild Ute, we're going to have two of the three smartest people I know in college football mathematics, and we're going to be talking private equity, and that should be a lot of fun. Have some good questions, and I'm going to invite you guys to put your questions in the comment section now. If there's something that you really want to make sure that we ask the question, I have about 7 questions already queued up. He'll be here for 15 or 20 minutes only. So I just wanted to take a second to let you guys know if you want your question to be read, it'll have to be a super chat, just so everybody knows. Don't try to sneak it in under the gun at the end because we might not have time. So I wanted to make sure we laid the groundwork for that and people were prepared. I just came over from Clint Foster's show. Evidently, there was a bit of a confusion that I'm going to answer right now. BR's got his comment in here. We were speaking about the naming convention and possibly changing the name of the Big 12. I'll just read BR's comment here and then I'll respond to it. Bomber, my comment on Clint's show was about our conference being about what America wants from college football, not changing the name to America's Conference, but projecting that image. So, look, I don't care what the name of the Big 12 is. I know people want me to get anxious and up in arms about it. I just don't. I do not care. The perception of the league needs to be toughness, needs to be football, needs to be basketball, needs to be about what the conference can do for the schools that are members and maybe enticing some other members to come in. But what it's called, I just don't. That doesn't get me jazzed up. What do you think about that, Ute?
I think that it could really impact our show right here because we're the Big 12 Mafia show on Tuesday nights. What are we going to do? Are we going to call it the All-State 12 show? If
if All-State will write us a check.
Or just the 12, right? Like, it's silly, guys. Like, I'll be honest, like the name stuff is silly. It's very NASCAR-esque. I don't care. Don't care. Laugh, whatever. Just give me more money so my team can compete and win games. Don't care. So really, if the Big 12 is going to become NASCAR, again, don't care. Everyone else can laugh, and then they're going to follow suit in a couple years later. So really, it's all about maximizing the dollar, and Brett Yormark is the man to do it. So call it whatever you want. Just give me max money.
What do you think, Moen?
It's about football. It's about toughness. It's about insurance claims. It's about good hands.
Yes.
It's about saving money on your car insurance, people. Come on.
I guess if somebody can explain to me why it should be something that and I'll speak for you here, if there's a reason we're missing that we just don't have a part of the story to convince us why that needs to be something different, tell us, sell us on it. Because up to now, all I can look at is an extra $2 or $3 or $4 million a year. BYU will put that money to good work. And I know Utah will too. So is it about money?
It's straight up prestige, guys. Like that's what we're talking about here, right? Like it's not as fun having your conference named after a corporate partner. Like the SEC is the SEC's name and everything, and it has cachet. The Big 10 does too. The Big 12 to a degree does as well. And so when you're giving that up and putting a corporate sponsor name, you're losing some prestige. 100%. That's how it is and everything. But is that prestige worth the amount of money you're going to get to fund your member schools? I think it's worth it to go and just give up that little prestige. We don't care. We'll be the underdog conference. We're going to be the third super conference anyway. Bring it on. Give us some more money and let's go kick some freaking butt, right? I don't care. Like, forget prestige. We just need to freaking win games in this conference. Call it whatever you want.
And I would say if that $4 or $5 million could help your team win a few more games, out of conference games, beating the SEC and the Big 10 because you have additional players or you have better coaches, whatever that is, if that money leads to wins on the football field specifically, that'll change it more than whatever the name of the conference is.
You know what other conference had prestige? The Pac-10, the Pac-12.
Well, so did the ACC.
See what happened, right? Yeah, exactly. So it's like, forget that stuff. Really forget it. Like, I mean, Yormark's a genius. This is a brilliant move to get more money to the member schools. And, like, I don't know if who caught that video over the weekend, but, like, the Big 12 is catching up to the ACC. They're on their financial backs right now. Really, the ACC had a large lead financially over the Big 12, including Florida State and Clemson. The Big 12 is already growing that. So the long game is winning. The Big 12 is winning and winning and winning. The ACC is just getting more hammered. We're talking even with Clemson and Florida State in conference, guys. So like what Yormark's doing is he's making this conference, this Big 12, All-State 12, whatever conference more valuable. That's what matters.
Okay, very good. While we're on this topic, let's just jump right to a couple of super chats that we have right out the gate. First of all, we got Lonnie Johansson, who happens to be a member of the channel. $5 super chat says, hi from Northeast Kansas, and go BYU and UAU, and go Big 12. That's what we're doing here. That's Absolutely. What we're talking about. That 12 matters. And obviously, if something was to change and we needed to do something for the show, yeah, that's fine, whatever. But what we're more about is the people, the schools. Let's get out and turn the tables on that. That's what I think most people would care about. And then this other one from Troll Grinding Cheek Clapper, $4.99 super chat, says, Mo and you sometimes say Notre Dame is the girl everyone wants to at the dance, but proms aren't forever. That bachelorette gonna be an old maid if she isn't careful.
She's already an old maid. I mean, there's no doubt about that. It's been 100 years. So. But you know what? As long as the ACC is still willing to put a corsage on that hand and bend over backwards for,
I love it.
Flirting.
I think that's really, really important. And Notre Dame is going to be there regardless. It's a matter of where they settle. If they stay and keep the ACC popped up, I will be shocked. I will be shocked if they do that. It's possible.
Thank you guys for the super chats.
Yeah, thank you
for the
very
super
much.
chats, for sure. Can we
All
talk?
right.
I mean, I know that Bill's coming on soon. Can we talk about this whole Notre Dame discussion? Haven't had a chance to really speak on this matter and everything. You know, like how Notre Dame's the controlling party. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to do shout outs, but we could do that if you want to. Go ahead, bring it up right now.
Like Notre Dame's always been the controlling party, right? Always. Like Notre Dame has always been the biggest chip. So really, like, who cares? Like Notre Dame's not going to move first. Why would Notre Dame move first? They don't want to move first. We know that from all their fan base from forever. You have to force their hand. And so eventually you're going to have to make a move and you're going to have to go elsewhere and not Notre Dame to get Notre Dame to move. In other words, you need to fracture the ACC to make sure they do move because I've got no other home to move to. So Notre Dame's not going to be the first school that's jumping over to the Big Ten or anywhere else. They're going to be following behind. They're going to have the first choice for wherever they want to go, but they're not going to make the moves, guys. They don't want to make the moves. If they wanted to make the moves, they'd do it. They don't want to. It doesn't matter though, because Florida State is actually this cage. They're in this cage, and they're going to get out of this cage, and someone's going to take them. It's going to be the Big Ten's going to take them. Notre Dame's going to end up as collateral freaking damage. So Notre Dame is the biggest, hottest girl at the party and stuff. But when she says no, you go to the next girl and everything. You take all her friends and all she has no friends left and everything. She's got to do something, right? That's exactly what Notre Dame's going to do. So they've got influence and stuff, but not as much influence as everyone's talking about.
Not since Swarbrick left, too, right?
Well, I will say this. What happens when you kill all the other guys at the prom? Then she's got to go home with you. So if Florida State and Clemson leave and it looks like other teams start to bail, boy, oh boy, sometimes it's better to be Mr. Right now than Mr. Right.
Exactly.
But we know they're going to have a soft landing wherever they go, so it doesn't really matter. To Ute's point, there's no rush. And Notre Dame has no rush to do anything.
This realignment cycle is going through Florida State, guys. It's not going through Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Look at what's happening. Just look at what's happening. Florida State, we're going to talk about that plenty and stuff. They are freaking rattling the cage so much. They do have a landing spot, too. Florida State, come on. Like, you guys know that. Like, I don't know if you saw that Dennis Dodd article that said Florida State was only worth in the like low 40s, like as far as media evaluations. Like there's crazy stuff's being thrown around about Florida State not being like worth as much as we think they are. That's bullcrap. Florida State is a media ratings juggernaut and everything. And they're going to get in where they want to get in. It's going to be the Big Ten Conference and everything. So realignment's going through Florida State. That's going to be the first domino to fall. 100%. What's going on, Bill?
Hey, how's it going?
How you doing, Bill?
Excellent. I just popped right in. Just boom.
No, you did. Yeah, we appreciate you being here. I think you came in right on the heels of Ute coming off the soapbox. So
okay.
welcome to the show. How you doing?
Pretty good. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Of course. You know, we saw private equity and money around the Big 12 conversations last week. You were my first phone call. Like, let's get you on. Let's answer some really basic questions. Let's keep it simple, stupid, and see if we can't work through answer some of these ideas that people are putting out there. We'll see if they have value or not. Did you run it? What was your first thoughts over some of the comments that came out right after that private equity story came out last week?
So I just something on the Big 12, the advancing the money,
right? And what they're going to do with it, right? What could potentially, and that's my simplest question for you is, what is the Big 12 potentially going to do with that money if they were to get, $800 to $1 billion? What's the very first? How would you spend it if you were the CFO of the conference?
So I got stuck even before that. I got stuck on the deal structure and the cost of the money. So let me just cover that really quickly because I thought it was a really clever approach by the firm that proposed it, because they're getting all their money back. They loan out about $1 billion, but they get it all back under the contract period that the Big 12 has. So there's really no risk for getting their money back. And then they've got their tentacles in the Big 12's revenue stream going after that. So it's a really good, clever, smart way of getting your tentacles into a nice revenue stream without really any risk. So that was my first thought. And my second thought was, how could you do this cheaper? And my thought went to, well, can you get some of the state universities in Texas, for example, and have them join together in a joint powers authority and borrow that amount for the conference at a much lower rate, because that's good contract-based revenue stream. And maybe you could get, instead of $1 billion, you could get $2 billion. So anyway, those were kind of my initial thoughts. And in terms of what you'd use the money with, I did hear you on a previous show talk about, trying to attract talent.
Right.
Expand the conference. That's the only thing that has resonated with me is attracting more talent, because if you're borrowing at effectively 17% interest rate, which I think is their rate of return potentially, you've got to get something that's worth more than 17% to make it worthwhile. You don't want to get something back that's only worth 5%. So you have to swing for the fences.
And when you see bring in more talent, we're talking schools, right?
Yeah. Bringing schools that add value, that would raise the survivability index of the Big 12 and the revenue stream. Yeah.
Okay.
That is the way to do it, guys. Like private equity, that is the absolute way. You use it as a one-time event to give to schools to help them with exit fees from the Atlantic Coast Conference. It's that simple. That's how you use it. And like, if you're going to use the private equity in that way, it does matter where you're getting your money from. So if you were going to go to maybe like a bank or some like maybe like a state agency and stuff, they might not be open to you using the money to buy out exit fees because it looks like you're killing off another conference. There's some potential, risks in there reputationally for the lender and everything, but private equity could care less. Like, they're going to give you the money, so you do what you want with it, right? That's the beauty of private equity, because there's not going to be a lot of backlash on them on how you spend it. But really, if you get the money, if you go private equity route, you absolutely have to use that money to really take out the ACC. So you can get their media contracts, so you can build up your media contract, a long-term play to grab at schools and stuff. And you could probably make the actual investment sound that way, but that's the only way. Like, there's no way in a million years, and Bill, I hope you agree with this one, that you should be using private equity money to bridge budget shortfalls year over year. That seems like the worst investment decision ever.
Yeah. No, these universities have tons of money in different reserve accounts. Florida State, when they were waiting to get their bond financing, they did an internal bridge loan of $17 million. And they just borrowed from the parking fund, the student housing fund, the bookstore fund. They just borrowed from these different funds that are sitting on reserves of cash to bridge the gap, and they can charge themselves an internal rate of maybe 5%. But they don't need public institutions do not need money for small amounts like that for bridge loans. In terms of private equity, that's why I thought the state of Texas, if you got some of the public universities in Texas to go together and are assigned the revenue stream from the Big 12, I think Texas as a state would be one that would be willing to do something audacious.
Okay.
As Bill's saying, it's so much more advantageous to get money from like the state of Texas than go to private equity because of the cost of it. Like, you're basically getting a loan from the state of Texas through a bond or really low interest rates and everything, because the Big 12 would be seen as a safe loan to give, right? But if you go the private equity route, they want a portion of your future money earned. So your future sales, your future revenues and stuff. So it caps how much you can earn in the future by a lot. And they're going to get paid in droves that way and stuff. So it's a highly risky proposition for the Big 12, because you're losing your upside, your financial upside going forward. So you better make it worthwhile if you're ever going to tap those resources.
So yeah, Bill,
swing for the fences.
That's right. If you're going to get the money, use it, right? Don't just put
use it on something big. Yeah.
So the first question I have coming out the gate is, looking at the way the Big 12 is put together, there's 16 universities, but 3 of them are private institutions.
Right.
Obviously, they're religious institutions, just happens to be BYU, TCU, and Baylor.
TCU is okay.
And we did hear rumblings that when this report came out, that maybe there was 2 or 3 schools that weren't too happy about a private equity offering, and that they would necessarily maybe even vote against a proposal. Can you first explain to us the difference between these private institutions and the state institutions, and how they might look at this money a different way? And 2, what's the exposure going to be for these private institutions that would maybe help them stay reserved and not necessarily want to go for it?
Well, the private institutions have a little more. It's a little more circuitous route to get low cost financing, and I haven't actually looked at that and how they if they're structuring it, what their borrowing rates are. But I would think their concerns is they don't have access to inexpensive capital, and they need that cash flow, that 20% cash flow, to remain competitive. They don't have as many levers as a public institution. They probably have more difficulty getting money from a local government or a state government to invest in their facilities. You saw that in Penn State. They got an infusion of cash from the state government. I think Wisconsin, there was some infusion of cash. Florida. So you have these state agencies that are willing to help their own agency. They're basically their sister departments, universities within the state, to raise cash and invest in their facilities. And the private universities don't have those levers. So I think they would be a little skittish in giving up a revenue stream.
Okay, and then what's the downside for them voting? Can the Big 12 with 16 teams sign a private equity deal if the vote wasn't unanimous?
Well, I don't know the bylaws. I'd imagine that they might be able to get by with just losing 3 votes.
Okay.
But on the private equity side, I'm just really nervous. My Pac-12 experience, I'm really nervous with a conference catching money before it goes to the teams.
Right.
Because Larry Scott, had this bright, he worked with a handful of university presidents. Nobody else was in the loop. Athletic directors didn't know, and he cut this network deal to have their own network and trying to go on their own. And it was a disaster. And it was all decided by a handful of, universities presidents on an executive committee and the commissioner. And so he's kind of created a firewall between him and the rest of the university's interest across the conference. So anytime a conference commissioner starts dreaming up money where they catch it before it gets to the universities, that makes me really nervous.
Okay. Do you have another question? I do, if you don't.
Yeah, go ahead.
Next question is, and this comes from Rock and Rant, who is in the wings watching this conversation really well, Bill. So I expect you to put on quite a show with these questions. Okay. In simple terms, what does private capital investment mean for a conference like the Big 12, and how might it change the game for individual schools involved, especially those pursuing independent deals beyond conference?
Once the conference takes a slice of your contract revenue. So as a university, when you go out to borrow, you're laying out for in an official statement for every bidder to see what your revenue streams are and how secure they are. And having a media contract that's guaranteed for 6 years at $32 million is a great source to borrow money against. If somebody takes 20% of that, obviously you have to reduce that amount. It reduces your borrowing capacity, but it also introduces an element of risk that revenue stream is not the universities alone, that a majority of other universities could vote to take that away from them. So I think you put all individual universities in the conference on a little bit of shaky ground with their own financing when you start meddling with that revenue stream.
Okay. Jude or Moen, you want to follow up on that? Okay.
Go ahead, Moen.
No, I don't have anything. I don't have anything. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Well, then I'll go to another question. If you were a college football coach or AD, would you rather have a wealthy private equity investor or a diehard alumni booster?
Diehard booster. Diehard booster every single day of the week. Yeah.
And I will speak for BYU and say it's a diehard booster.
Yeah.
Because they've completely changed the dynamics down at that university. So if you had a choice, but some schools don't have a choice, do they?
Yeah, no, they don't. And obviously you want a booster too. I mean, ideal situation, the gold standard is at Oregon, where you've got Nike, who's got a diehard booster who also has a brand that works with athletics. So that's the gold standard. If you can have somebody, I think Oklahoma State's got good,
right,
single boosters. Arkansas's got good single boost. They got chicken money. Those are ideal because they don't come with all the strings attached. And private equity firms, they spend all day long, 80 hours a week, thinking about how to get money out of your pocket into their pocket. That's all they think about. And they're thinking of ways to creep, into your revenue stream, put conditions on it. Just a simple example that it would be innocuous if you're looking at an agreement. You might see some wording that says that University X will make best efforts to increase revenues by 10% every year. Now, best efforts versus reasonable efforts is a huge difference in the legal world, where best efforts means you're basically going to sell your house, your kids and everything to get that 10%. Reasonable efforts is just you're going to be taking the regular course of business to hit that target. And you've got these loan sharks out there. They're going to be looking to put every single type of language in their deals to get money from you and to keep getting money from you. So it's just they're a beast that's not worth playing with, in my view.
Mm-hmm.
As close to a loan shark as you could get, right? A legal loan shark. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. Kerry Knowles, one of our private equity boosters. Thanks for being here, Kerry. $10 super chat says, question, if there's 16 Big 12 teams, and how much and how long will $1 billion last, and what happens after that? I think this follows along with what we're saying, but maybe it's a separate conversation of if that money wasn't going to be used for that big bang for the buck, what else could it be used for?
I mean, my take on this, chasing money, we're chasing money, but we're not really thinking about what are we going to spend it on. Is it all going to go for football? Right. There's only so many employees or labor. The labor pool in football is pretty defined, where there's 100 4-stars and 300 or 100 5-stars and 300 4-stars, and then a whole gaggle of 3-stars, and that's it. And so are we chasing money to get basically the same athletes we've always gotten? And so it doesn't make sense to me to think that we'd be taking that money, that advance, and just spending it on trying to recruit the same players we're probably going to end up with anyway. Mm-hmm. And then and in terms of what we could use it for is the Olympic sports. And this is a tough conversation, but if we were all businesses, if this was a Zoom meeting on our business and we all had 20 businesses in common and we were going to talk about investment, and we had one business that made a ton of money, one business that made a little money, and 18 businesses that lost money, would we be talking about borrowing the revenue stream from our cash cow so that we could keep supporting our revenue losers?
No.
And that seems to be the conversation in the abstract, chasing money with no business plan or business case for how you're going to use it. And I think every university is different. Every university will be different. You've got at the one end, Ohio State's got 35 teams. They're going to keep 35 teams. But then on the low end, I think Oregon State is on the low end. They're going to have to cut a bunch of teams, but they can still keep a competitive football team because the pool of players is still there for them to get. But they just have to cut the businesses that are losing money. And that's unfortunate, but that's the state of college athletics. They're going to have to go back to the club level.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of programs that are looking at that right now. You want to cover this one?
Yeah, so first off, Bill just nailed that, though. It's the solution is cutting sports and not borrowing private equity funds to fund sports that are losing money. So then that private equity fund can kill your future returns. How bad a business decision is that? That's a horrible business decision. Anyone that signs onto that deserves to be fired. Yeah. Serious. Like that's just really stupid.
It's good for It's good for the broker that placed the equity because they get 5% off the top and then they can go home.
Well, I mean, even if you're a private equity, I wouldn't even be happy if I'm the private equity firm actually making that deal, because really my future upside is probably going to be limited and everything based on how my investment is spending that money. So I don't think it's a win-win for anybody, and that's not going to happen. You can't do that. Okay, let's look at thank you for the super chat here. So me versus echo chamber for $10 here. Wouldn't the ACC still be in a better position versus the Big 12 for long-term financing? If 4 ACC teams at $250 million apiece, that's $1 billion free, and it's not a loan. That $1 billion can be used to keep the ACC together. So essentially, the argument is instead of going the private equity route and getting $1 billion, letting 4 ACC schools go on the free would get you $1 billion too if the exit fee was $250 million apiece. So, Bill, I'm curious on any thoughts.
So are they? So there's a suggestion here that you take. So 4 of the schools, as a whole, you're going to take 20% from the whole conference, and you're going to use that as retention money for the ACC.
Yeah, so essentially the ACC gets rated. They lose 4 schools, but in the process of getting rated, they get a lot of exit fees back, and it equates to $1 billion for the existing members that stay behind. And so they essentially get that money, like kind of like a quasi loan, if you want to look at it that way too. Would those schools be in a better position than the Big 12 schools if they got the private equity money? The remaining schools in the ACC.
Yeah, so and I think you've done some analysis on the media contracts, how they would drop, and so I guess that would, and so I think, and I just vaguely remember some of your numbers. You had some big numbers, so 250 million doesn't do it. So
it was 300 million.
Yeah, it's 300 million.
Yeah.
So you're not going to come ahead. You might be crippled and survive, but you're not going to be better off.
And I will say too that the numbers that we did during that ACC Doomsday video, the 300 million, that was with a projection of the Big 12 future media contract at a much smaller number than it actually would happen at. There was recent information that came out that the next Big 12 media deal, or the next cycle in 2030, is probably going to be double of what it is today. It's 31 million today. It could be in the low 60s by the time in 2030. And so if you assume that projection, it absolutely stomps the ACC's numbers in the long-term game until 2036. So those numbers got a lot worse, in other words, since new information came.
Yeah, and more reason not to give up 20% of your revenue stream.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and on top of that, even say you did make the deal, say those schools are gone, you take the money, you put it in the bank. They're not going to, the people in the ACC right now are saying if you stay, you'll get these big payout numbers. Those payout numbers are going to be titrated over 10 years, over 12 years. You're not going to get a $50 million check just for staying in the conference this 1 year. So the number would have to be ginormous per school to make that pay for itself.
Yeah.
I think what you do, actually, you use a hybrid approach. I think you use private equity like we're talking about as ACC exit fee funds available to hand over to a school that's jumping over to the Big 12 to help. That does make sense to do it, but don't do it for $1 billion. Like, why don't you borrow 100 million instead and make that number a lot smaller? And why don't you throw it at one school like a Miami that might be on the cusp and stuff, and maybe that swings them over to the Big 12. You do it with one school, you pull a big piece over to the Big 12 to really put the dagger in the ACC. Then the other schools, you just don't help with the exit fees. They're just going to have to maybe get loans somehow or whatever. They have to figure out the financing, but you do it with that most important piece that kind of breaks the back of the ACC. I know that's nefarious and stuff, but guys, that's real business, right? We're talking like Big 12 survival, ACC strategies, and how to use that money wisely.
Just to follow up, this is an earlier comment that they'd made. Can you point them to which video they need to go search for in our library, Ute, so they can actually hear what those numbers were from your presentation?
I can save you some time. It's right on the main page, guys.
There you go.
It's the top video on the main page.
And what's the title of that one, Moen?
It was a Big 12 Mafia show. I don't remember the exact.
It was Doomsday, wasn't it? What was it called?
ACC Doomsday.
ACC Doomsday.
Okay.
I believe.
Yeah. But anyways, you broke it all out. 250 million is not enough. That's the bottom line.
250 is not enough.
It's not enough. It would have to be 350.
Yep.
And you're assuming that by losing North Carolina, Clemson, Florida State, and we're just going to throw Virginia in there. We won't even put Miami in that on that list. That their media value doesn't just fall through the floor at that point anyway.
And I just looked up where the Big 12 headquarters is. You guys know that it's in Texas.
Yes, yeah.
I think that's another, coupled with a couple of the public universities, the state of Texas, from a tourism standpoint, I could see there being a combination there to put together a much better financing package than a private equity deal for that exit fee.
Yeah, I'm 100% with the Bill. If you can get it from other means, do it. You don't want to go the private equity route. It's too dang expensive, guys. Like they specialize in making money, and they want to see the investment do well too. It's not like they're going to just. I don't think private equity is like really a true loan shark, because they need that investment to perform well so they can make money off it too. So it's kind of a synergistic relationship, but it's expensive. And the Big 12 should look elsewhere first.
So one last question, Bill. We appreciate you coming in rapid fire Tuesday. I didn't mean to keep you moving on your toes.
Oh, no worries. I didn't know it was rapid fire Tuesday. Good to know.
It isn't rapid fire Tuesday. We've never done that before. So tonight has turned out to be that way. I just want to, first of all, I want to thank you again for being here. We really, really appreciate the time that you put in, not only on our show, but out in the world, and what you can contribute to the social media space. Private equity, you've done a lot in the last year and a half now. And just really want to thank you for all that hard work. I just have one last question.
Sure.
If you were Brett Yormark right now, you've heard these news things break that private equity at least has been approached. They might be putting something together, but certainly no contracts forthcoming. Are you feeling bully on the Big 12 continuing to be that sort of premier conference as much as it can outside of the top two? Or are you thinking that the Big 12 is in a good place to be successful here?
Oh yeah. No, I think they've got anything that's not on the West Coast is good. The West Coast, the interest in West Coast football is just really low, and to have Texas, to have Oklahoma, to have some of these states that are just football crazy, and some of the large markets that you have. And no, I think you're in a great position going forward.
All right, very good. You or Moen, you guys have any other questions for Bill before we let him go?
Yeah, I've got one.
Bill.
Go ahead.
You mentioned the state of Texas. Would that be issued as a bond measure then, or how would that work?
You don't have to, it doesn't have to be a bond measure in terms of like getting a vote. You could have universities collect, a couple of universities form, they call them joint powers authority, where you basically join the powers of a couple of universities, or you have the University of Texas higher education system, which issues bonds. You have them issue a bond under their authority. There might be state legislation required. Sometimes there is for sports facilities. I know Florida has that hook where you can't, you can do it all you want in parking and student housing, but when it comes to facilities, they want legislative approval. But you get those groups together, and you'd have the Big 12 conference assign some of the media revenue in a disproportionate way to those universities, and you'd borrow against it. And I think you'd come up with a great interest rate. I mean, Florida State just on revenues alone from their athletic department got just about a 4% rate on their bonds. So that's going to beat 17% by a lot.
Hands down.
Yeah. You only need 5% of that revenue stream to raise $500 million. You don't need 20%. You could cut it way down.
Bill, thanks so much for being here. Why don't you tell everybody where to find your stuff and kind of what you do?
So I do academic research, but I've kind of drifted over into the sports area because I have some background working in sports financing and university financing, and I get a lot more feedback on this type of work and these type of research writings than I do on the traditional real estate joint venture and equity projects. So I've enjoyed looking at this and kind of calling out when there's egregious use or love affairs with certain private equity deals. I like to try to provide some context and analysis for those, and if there's a good one, I like to point those out. I think Florida State's was heading in the right direction if they go where they've drawn. It's kind of a circle around some marketing and ticketing and concerts, and they'll have a very narrow private equity partner with expertise in that area to help them boost those revenues. So I like to highlight the good ones and call out the bad ones. And down the road here, I'll probably do some kind of more deeper dive that be way off into the academic sphere. But for now, I'm enjoying just writing this type of stuff. And I'm at Bill Farley. At Bill Farley PhD is my Twitter X account, and there's a link there up to my website, which I always kind of forget what it's BillFarleySubstack.com. I think it's BillFarley.substack.com.
Follow Bill. Seriously, some of the stuff that you put out on X Twitter is amazing. The research you do, the public requests that you get in, the public information requests are like best in class. So you do such good work. Appreciate everything you do. And if you're not following Bill, anyone that's listening, please do so.
Yeah, thanks for that.
I just posted your link to your Substack site from your latest article, the private capital stings the University of South Florida on stadium financing. I just took the link, put that in the comment section. So I recommend everybody click on that link and read that article once our show's over. Bill's a fantastic read, and definitely follow him on Twitter. He's a friend of the show, and we really appreciate him being here. Thanks so much for your time, Bill.
Anytime, guys. Thanks a lot.
Okay, we'll see you later. Okay, bye-bye.
Georgia Tech, gentlemen.
Georgia Tech.
Is that organic enough?
That's up to Moen. He's the one that's tough on the rules.
I'm already lit, so it doesn't matter.
Thanks again. Thank you very much, Bill. We really
great.
appreciate it. Friend of the show, and always love to have him on. Really, really appreciate him.
Absolutely.
We had a couple of super chats come in. Ryan Willie for $2 says Notre Dame can, I don't know what that is,
Poop themselves.
Oh,
shit themselves. They can shit in their hands and clap.
Okay, thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate that super chat.
Nice one, Ryan.
And then we got one here just at the end. Parks Baker for $5 says, "You guys are awesome. Just caught you live. Go Noles."
Oh yeah,
We're friends of Florida State here.
You're gonna like what we're talking about next. I promise to you here.
Yes, you are. There's no doubt.
By the way,
about that.
the poll ended this freaking Friday. We're doing.
Okay.
You know what? You're right, Bomber. Yeah, we'll do it this freaking Friday. We might have to end Big Freaking Friday slightly early to get that one started, though, if we're going to go.
I think we should.
Season.
Yeah.
All right.
Tell everybody what that's going to look like.
Yeah, so we're going to actually do a member live stream this Friday after our normal live stream for Big Freaking Friday. So really from Mountain Time, 5 Mountain Time, we're probably going to go for 2.5 hours total and everything. First part of it will be normal Big Freaking Friday. Then after that, members only live stream about Miami, analyzing their fit in the Big 12. And we'll look at a Wild U University presentation, see where they stack up and everything. I have a comprehensive discussion about the U.
I love it. Moen, why don't you give us an extended list of sounders to cover all of the super chats that we've had tonight?
You take drugs, Danny?
Every day.
Good. So what's the problem?
I don't know.
I couldn't care less about the team struggling.
You're going to get me going. Yanni Moore?
Get him out.
Oh, you want me to do more? Okay, we'll do.
No, just get him out while you can.
Get him out.
There we go. That'll work.
Yeah, that's a good segue right there.
All right, let's get some shout outs since we didn't get to that show. I appreciate everybody sticking around. 160 people watching us live. We really appreciate everybody for being here tonight. Want to thank Bill again for coming on earlier. Go ahead, Moen.
I just saying we're number one.
We are number one
with a bullet.
That's right. We are number one.
Bullet.
Joaquin Morales is first in the house, and member says first. Good to have you here, Joaquin. Let's see here. He also followed that up with, hey, Bomber, Wild Ute, Moen, Rock and Rand, Immaculate, College Football, Mafia family. What does this mean for realignment season? Smash that like button. Chances of Florida State, Clemson, or Miami to the 12? That's a question mark. I would put the chance that Miami goes to the 12 at about 20%.
Yeah, I'm with Bomber. 100%. 20%. 100% on 20%.
What do you think, Moen?
100% of the time, it works all the time.
Oh, Moen!
So you're saying it's all in, huh?
No.
Okay.
No,
so
0%. It's 0%. Any of them end up in the Big 12.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see. I don't know. You could be right, and I don't think you are. All right, let's get to another super chat here as we're saying our hellos. Gary Cole Knowles, $20. Thanks again, Kerry. Says the Big 12 should be okay, but after the big 3-4 teams leave the ACC, they won't be able to sustain top 3 conference status. The teams left will pull in less than 900,000 eyeballs per game. That's undesirable. Ute.
That is a good analysis right there, Kerry. You just summed it up right here. Hey, all Noel fans out there, listen. I'm going to be really honest with you. You've been getting milked. You've been getting milked for a long time, right? Like these ACC schools, these bottom feeder schools have been sucking the milk out of your udder for a long time. A long, long time. They've been sucking you, and you're sick of it. I get it. Like, seriously, they got to bring their own milk to the table and everything. Guys, like Florida State has been absolutely getting sucked dry by the ACC for a long time. Just look at the viewership ratings. We talk about it all the time. I've done the analysis. Florida State and Clemson are like two cows are just getting milked to death right here. And the thing that I would be upset the most with, guys, and especially Kerry, I know you're upset with this too. But seriously, after getting milked, all that, you're almost out of milk. You get milked so much, okay? Seriously,
I'm going to clip you going, sucking you dry.
Oh, my gosh.
Here's the most offensive part of this of all, okay? So after all the milk drank by the Wake Forest, your Georgia Techs, your NC States, they're just drinking off your viewership, off your media contract and stuff. And now that you're said, okay, no more milk, I'm going to cut off the udder, right? I'm just going to move it. You're not going to suck it anymore. Now they're literally trying to take a piece of the udder and exit fees now. It's like, no, it's not just the milk now. They're trying to take the whole thing. I'd be ticked off. And I am ticked off for no fans and stuff, but you got to stop the milk flow. You got to cut it off. They're done.
Okay, no Moen, you have to put that into some kind of a supercut.
That is going to get cut. Sucking it dry.
I love it.
Dude, I'm going to make that a bass remix with techno music.
Okay, everybody, you've just been treated with one of the
wait.
We're going to delete this episode after, right, guys? We're still planning on doing that.
Kerry Go Knowles deserves sounders. So.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
And I've invited a very special guest.
Oh.
Greg's in the house. Now speak around the corner, Greg Flugar, with that sounder. Kerry, thanks for your super chat. We really appreciate it. Really appreciate you. Let's get some more shout outs here. Timothy Green says, sounds like another very interesting and informative show. We try to do that here, Timothy. Hopefully we did our job. Ryan Willie, another one of our members, says, hi, College Football Mafia family. Oh, boy.
No, I'm in trouble now. Crap. Greg.
All right, let's go, Greg.
Thank you for letting me come on in. I know Moen is usually the villain. He's wearing the black hat, but I think you need another villain on the show, so I am the man that can get it done.
Let's go. I'm ready for that.
Did you guys read John Wilner's article of today?
I did.
You did?
Yep.
Let's pull it up.
Okay. Well, can you pull up my my tweet on it?
Yeah, I can look for it. Hang on a second.
Go ahead, because I posted 2 parts of that article.
Okay, let me do a search here for you. Hang on.
I did a two pics of the article.
I wasn't told to be prepared.
Well,
so
yeah.
I didn't have it up. This is my fault. Okay, here we go. I've got it right here.
Okay, can you like the first pick and the second pick? So this is John Wilner.
Here's
article.
The first pick.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. Share screen. Entire screen. All right, here's the first one. Go ahead, Greg.
So this is John Wilner discussing the ins and outs of why maybe the Big 12 should do the equity deal, okay? And he's talking about this rapid decline of students 5 to 10 years after the 2025-2026. So we had fertility rates fell rapidly from 2007 to 2009. We're going to hit a peak in 2005, and then it's going to drop off the table. If you go to the next picture.
Yep.
And then we can do away with this. 10 years, as many as 15% college students going to drop off the table. So connecting the dots from the Great Recession to the Big 12 private equity play isn't difficult. It's simple supply and demand. Colleges will be competing for a shrinking pool of applicants, especially out-of-state students who pay full cost tuition. Okay, you can get rid of that.
Okay.
So this is not only, this article pertained to the Big 12's decision. Private equity, not private equity. If you get the money, where do you put it? John Wilner's article is about Big 12 needing to win more football games, as Nathan was saying earlier. Now, Wild Youth is bringing up a good aspect of it. Use the money to bring in more value to the conference because that's a longer play.
Right.
Okay, whatever. Back and forth. Sounds great. This also pertains to expansion. This is exactly why the SEC is looking at the state of North Carolina and the state of Virginia.
Right.
It's those students. The national reporters really haven't fleshed it out, but that is why the SEC, not just the footprint, but in the demographics of North Carolina, Virginia, their students are younger. So their peak isn't hitting 2025, supposedly. It's going to go on for a bit. And the SEC wants those states to be SEC country, so then Mississippi State can be more attractive to their students. LSU, Georgia, therefore they're on. Okay, so I'm going to be the villain here. I'm going to get everybody mad at me. I've already got everybody mad at me, so let's just sure. Double down, baby. Double down.
Let's go. Let's go.
Wild Youth said the next realignment goes through Florida State. Florida State is a great university, has great value, great brand. Dennis Dodd, I agree with Wild Youth, probably a little bit off on those numbers. But the next realignment does not go through Florida State. It goes through, since I'm going to be the villain, let's go really get into it. The next realignment wave goes through Notre Dame again. Ooh. And it goes through North Carolina. 2 reasons. 1, Notre Dame, they're already in the Big Ten contract. Those Big Ten schools already know they're going to get a bump in pay. CBS, NBC, and Fox have already kind of agreed that the bump in pay is going to go up. Blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, you got the unique brand of Notre Dame and everything Moen says about Notre Dame is correct as he's sipping on his drink. In North Carolina is the other one. So for big brand and for those students and the growth, they're the 9th largest state in the country with no SEC Big Ten school in it, and they're going to be the 7th largest in 2030 projections. And when it comes to the students, they're even larger than that. So I get it. Florida State is an incredible brand, best football brand out there that's not in the SEC of the Big Ten. They're a better brand than half or most of the Big Ten schools, half of the SEC, no question about it. But this is about timing. This is about leverage. This is about students. And what now is believed, now this is either going to go one or 2 ways. And I don't know which way it's going to go. And if it goes one way, Wild Youth is going to nail it. If it goes the other way, then everyone's going to be gasping, going, what the hell is about to happen? The first way, the Wild Youth way, this could be happening or could happen. Nobody knows. But let's say there is some negotiation going on, or there will be negotiation going on. And it's in secret. Of course it's going to be in secret. But part of those negotiations, Florida State and Clemson is going to say, once we get this settlement number figured out, nobody says a word. And then give us the opening to talk with the Big Ten and the SEC. Give us the window of first opportunity to talk with them. I don't think that's how it's going to go after talking with people. Once there is a settlement number, once there is a pathway to it, Florida State and Clemson are going to be the very first ones that people can talk to, which is good, which is great, which is an advantage, right? But in the last 7 days, it's been clear to me, and people can disagree, whatever you want to do with this, but it's been said to me that the SEC and the Big Ten, if Clemson and Florida State become available tomorrow because of a settlement, they'll, especially the Big Ten, will talk to the Florida State, right? Clemson, but they're going to once again. Notre Dame, are you thinking, Florida State and Clemson, they're going to get out? They've got the number. Notre Dame, what are you doing? North Carolina, are you going to get out of the quagmire of the state of North Carolina with the Board of Governors? What are you doing? If there's an opportunity for us to talk with you, we'll wait for the opportunity before we hand out an offer, before we really get in the deep weeds with Florida State, with Clemson, as great as schools they are and great at brands they are. So, and people are very upset with me, and I get it, but I think the next realignment wave again goes through Notre Dame and North Carolina.
Very good summation. I think that most would agree with you, Craig. I think that most would see Notre Dame, and I mean UNC would be a little bit more arguable, right? You could have a debate either way on the value of UNC, but I could see it exactly how you're saying it. But the one thing is the trigger event. The trigger event is FSU. It's not Notre Dame. Notre Dame does not want to go to the Big Ten. There's not the wanter isn't there, right? So they might be the biggest gorilla and stuff and the most valuable property, but they're not the trigger event. The trigger event is Florida State and this lawsuit and stuff. So that's really why realignments, in my view, is getting driven by Florida State, because if Florida State wasn't making all this noise, nothing would happen.
No question about it. No question about it. Now, you're right. I mean, Florida State is the tip of the spear, no pun intended, or pun intended. But let's just, and I don't know, man. Let's just pretend for a moment Nathan and Moen and Wild, you put up this show because breaking news, settlement.
Right.
Okay. So now Notre Dame knows that Florida State has the ability to get out of the grant of rights and to talk.
Yeah.
Now Notre Dame knows that Clemson has this ability, and they probably know North Carolina in a way, somehow, someday, some week, as they get out of that political quagmire, they know the pathway. And so now Notre Dame is probably thinking, yeah, this thing's going pear-shaped, this ACC, and now we might make ourselves available, because for the first time, we didn't think we thought this thing was going to go into at least the early 2030s.
Right.
Maybe now this is the time. So that is why I think it's still, unfortunately, because I'm getting a lot of flack for it, but I have to say what I'm being told.
Sure.
And what Dennis Dodd said inartfully or whatever, I'm going to be honest with you. And a lot of people share his take on it.
The low 40s, as far as
maybe not the low 40s. Maybe not the low 40s. Maybe not the low 40s. But the SEC is not into Florida State.
We know that.
So what that does is the Big Ten is sitting there going, well, SEC's not in the – they're not right. Now the Big Ten even has more the space to say, okay, well, of course we'll talk to Florida State. We might take Florida State. Right. But since since the SEC doesn't have that, it gives the ability for the Big Ten to possibly say, hey, we're gonna wait on this. We'll talk. We're going the deep weeds. These talks go. They don't. It doesn't happen like this.
Yeah, I think though, Greg, if you could get two premier athletic programs like Clemson and Florida State for half price, just like they did Oregon and Washington.
Yeah.
We ask all the time here, what is the why not? If not now, when? What is the timing part of it? And I think that's a deal. Yeah. Could they get those schools at any time in the future? Of course they could. But now is a good time. Realignment still has the water all frothed up. The air is still going into the air for mixing the water up and whatnot. Why not? Why not get them if you can?
I would have, and I have said the exact same thing, and I would have agreed with you all the way up until last week. And so I'm just relaying to what a lot of people are thinking. Now, maybe they're all wrong. Or maybe it will change again. Maybe the moment that a settlement number gets Wild Ute saying, Florida State is the trigger. They're triggering this. What if that number comes out and then Big Ten says, oh, forget about it. We got to get these two Wild Ute could be absolutely correct.
If the real desire here is to go into high population areas with money and college applicants, right? Like that's what we're
and the demographics of
that's right.
Money, those who have the money to
go to college. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it makes perfect sense and stuff if you're a college targeting those areas. The state of Florida is massive. I have no idea why the Big Ten wouldn't want in the state of Florida. So if that's one of the ideas the North Carolina and Florida are like, I mean, that's much more valuable than Indiana. You already own Indiana market, right? Like you already own that and stuff. So it's not like Notre Dame is bringing a bunch of other like applicants or anything, I mean, with the brand and the media rights and everything, they're going to get a full share. But really strategically, if you're trying to grow the footprint for new students, Florida and North Carolina, 100%. And even going into South Carolina, that's why all these schools we're talking about make sense in a lot of different ways. There's about 10 ways that make sense.
Let's Greg, do you have a second? We can get caught up.
You got it. No, go ahead. I just wanted
don't sneak off. We're not letting you go yet.
I'm here. The show needed a villain besides Moen.
Yeah. Okay.
Moen's the hero. What are you talking about?
Oh, I mean the hero. Okay.
Man in Black. All right, here we
Greg,
go.
you clearly didn't hear the whole milking thing, I hope, right?
Yeah, I did. Unfortunately, I did. Go ahead.
All right. Kerry Go Knowles for $5 says, hey, Greg, have you found the fridge on the Big 12 Mafia set yet?
That's a very good question. No, I do not know, but I'm going to have to find that out.
You will. Yeah, there's a secret pass key. There's money we exchange, so it'll come. Kerry also says Miami will be Florida State's backpack. What do you think about so let's get caught up to Miami. Friday night on our show, we're going to do a Miami question mark special and where they might end up. Where do you see Miami now in this sort of hectic time period that is out there? If North Carolina is being talked about, Miami sort of disappeared.
Where do I think Miami is?
Yeah. Where do you think they go?
As you know, on any given Saturday sports book in Heisman City, where the PATC community lives, we don't have any odds up on the board anymore because of this new information we've gotten beaten over the head on, actually. So Miami, it's very interesting. We're going to have to keep an eye on who their next president's going to be. If it's the interim president, that's going to be very interesting indeed. And I think Miami has a shot to get into the Big Ten or the SEC. I think they've got a shot. I can't put a percentage on it. Again, I'm not trying to. I was reminded that, again, one of the rules of realignment is you got to look at the biggest dominoes.
Right.
in regards to these two dominoes, unlike Texas and Oklahoma, unlike USC, UCLA, unlike Oregon and Washington, unlike Utah, these two dominoes are in mystery because North Carolina is in a quagmire and Notre Dame is Notre Dame. Right. So I don't know, guys. I think Miami does have a shot, though, to get into the Big Ten. And I've said that before. And I think maybe it's increased a little bit since the last I've talked with you. And we shall see.
Okay. Terry Kane, another member, gives us a $10 super chat to say FSU to the MAC coming soon. You paid $10 for that, Terry.
Tell you what, this Kane, this Florida State and Miami,
that's a real thing.
There's some real rivalry venom there.
Absolutely true. Ryan Willie, the fateful Badger, hanging out up there by Minnesota, for $10 says, Big Ten order of finish. Let's do this. We're going to talk some football. Indiana, right? Purdue, UCLA, Northwestern, Rutgers, Minnesota, Nebraska, USC, Michigan State, Washington, Iowa, Illinois, Penn State, Wisconsin, Michigan, Maryland. Okay. Oregon. Okay. That's just crazy talk. OSU's number one. There's no way Maryland finishes third. Is there?
Maryland's not good. Maryland.
You told us that last year, Mo.
And they were good last year. They were good last year outside of
MJ Morris isn't going to lead Maryland to third place. Sorry.
I'm not saying they're going to hit third, but I'm saying they're top 6.
And in Minnesota is going to finish ahead of Nebraska. When you go 5 levels down on the tiebreaker, Minnesota will finish ahead. Because these tiebreakers are going to decide so much of the orders of finish. So
that's awesome.
By the way, Iowa State. I've got Iowa State finishing third in the Big 12.
Wow, that's a surprise a little bit.
I think that's really smart, actually.
Their quarterback was the Big 12 Freshman of the Year. Their running back, Sama, was unbelievable at the end of the year. Great Xavier Henderson, wide receiver, good defense. I hope Immaculate is listening. I think the Cyclones are going to kick the Hawkeyes' tail.
Whoa!
And that's gonna push Iowa into a deep decline. And I think the Cyclones are going to be fantastic. I'm not sure why I'm bringing that up right now, but I think Iowa State is the real deal this year.
When you say Iowa State's going to kick Iowa's tail, you mean it's going to be a 9-6 game, right?
6-3.
Normally I would say that. No, I think I think Iowa State's going to whoop them in Iowa City. By the way,
dang,
we'll have to see. Kerry Go knows another $2 super chat says nobody takes Dodd seriously. I don't know.
I mean, he's reputable and stuff, but like saying that Florida State's have got evaluation in the low 40s, guys. That if you look at viewership, that just doesn't make any sense at all. I can't believe you'd say that. That's a slap in the face, the Knowles.
Hey, let me and that circles back. I know you're not going to comment on Dodd as a reporter, Greg, but you do. You know, we've all been doing this a little bit of time now, and we have all these different contacts, lots of different types of writers, different stories, different things. Of everything that's happened since you started covering realignment for USC and then going to the Big Ten, what is the one thing that's changed most from when you started to what you have now?
What has changed the most?
Yeah, what's changed the most in the reporting? I think 2 years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago, you could trust people a little bit more.
I generally do trust them. I trust their motivation. I've come to the understanding they all are sitting on the same stories. Their information is embargoed. They can't deliver it. You get information, but you're told you can't go with it.
Right.
And if you noticed, when one reporter breaks one part of the story, another reporter breaks another part of the story. You've noticed that lately. It just happens because they all sort of have a little bit here and a little bit there. And sometimes they're trading bones. They're trading information. I can tell you that for sure. Dennis Dodd, I'm not going to, when Dennis Dodd reported, I'll give an example of Dennis Dodd getting and people are going to ask, why do I know this? But you don't have to, you can take this information out however you want. But there's a great example of how Dennis Dodd nailed the story in that, but everyone thought he got it wrong. And that is when he reported that the Big 12 was told in a meeting from ESPN that they were done, that they were only going to do the Big 12, and it was a couple other conferences at the time. You remember that story?
I do remember,
Dennis Dodd reported. Yeah. He reported saying the Big 12 was told by ESPN that this is it. They weren't going to go with the Pac-12. They weren't going to do their Tier 1 deal. It was over. And then and about an hour later, Nicole Auerbach and other reporters, remember, they jumped on it and said, no, the Pac-12 is still talking with ESPN.
Yeah, Schultz came out and did a report. That's not true. We're talking.
Well,
I remember.
Take this however you want it, but it was absolutely true. Right. And what happened, and I can't go in the deep weeds on this, but Dennis Dodd there was information. It was absolutely true. There was information leaked, and then there was a president in the former Pac-12 conference basically threw up his hand and said, "What the bloody hell?" Got on the phone allegedly with Yormark and told his people, those people in the Big 12 meeting leaked something out. They better keep their mouth shut. And then they did a back play where they got they told other reporters. These other reporters thought they were being told great information. So they came out and said, no, they ain't true. But it was all true. So that, I know that is one story that Dennis Dodd absolutely nailed, that everyone thinks probably still today that he got wrong, but he nailed it. So
actually, that was one that John Wilner came out and refuted, going off of information he'd been told. He immediately,
everyone refuted.
Everybody, Nicole Auerbach dumped on him. They all dropped on him that day.
And that was Operation. And those reporters were speaking what they believe was to be the honest truth.
Right.
But Dennis Dodd did, and I've never spoken to Dennis Dodd in my life, but Dennis Dodd got information from a person inside that meeting, and that person got scolded by Yormark. And I'm probably giving way too much here, but then there was this operation, calm everything down, and information was given these reporters, and they went with it. But Dennis Dodd, then if you notice the next few days, Dennis Dodd says, "I'm standing by my report."
Yeah, he did.
And he had good reason to stand by his report. And if you notice, ESPN did not really give the Pac-12 any, didn't really give them an offer after that. It was dead.
And I think there was only one offer to be had. It made sense, right? They turn it down. The guy down the street takes it. There's really nothing else to talk about. They needed to keep the.
I'm still convinced that Oregon and Washington would have signed nothing ever. I don't know. That's never come out, but that's the only thing that makes sense. Like, why in the world, if you were Oregon, would you ever sign?
They were waiting. They were, on one hand, they were like, okay, let's try to save this. But on the other hand, they knew of the interests of the Big Ten. They knew that the conference cracked one more time, because they were told they did have first party talks with the Big Ten,
right?
Because the legal counsel of the Big Ten allowed it to happen, because they knew theoretically Washington and Oregon were leaving on August 2nd, 2024. So all that happened in DC and New York City and Washington, DC. And then months later, they were able to, get it done.
Greg, thanks for coming on. Love to see you. Do you have any questions for us? We haven't seen you for a minute.
My question is for Wild Ute and the Utah Utes. Keithy, is he okay? Is he healthy? Is Cameron Rising? Is he okay? Is he healthy?
Greg, you trying to lay a bet here? Is that what you're
No,
doing?
no. I just if they are good to go. Now I had Utah number 2 on my order finish.
Right.
And I almost had them number 3 behind Iowa State.
Mhm.
But then, you think about Cameron Rising completing those third down passes to Keithy, moving the chains. That's how Utah does it, man. They're gritty. They're tough. I'm just wondering, are those 2 guys going to be ready to go in August? That's my question.
100% ready to go, 100% healthy. The rumor is that it's looking real good. This is the most talented skill position Utah's ever had. They're 3 tight end deep. They have a 3 tight end monster. Greg, you made a mistake by putting them at number 2. Utah's going to, and they're not just going to win the Big 12. They're going to win a playoff game this year. That's how good this team is. Seriously, this team is absolutely loaded.
They are.
Ohio State, Moan.
That's right.
I want Ohio State revenge.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I believe that.
Wow.
65-year-old Cam Rising's going to come out and beat Ohio State.
Before you go, Greg, I think this is something that you might like. This is we're a year on from, let me read this from Reddit College Football. Yeah. 1 year ago this week, San Diego State told the Mountain West they were probably leaving, but needed a little extra time to make sure they would have joined the Pac-12, reportedly with SMU, to bring storied Conference of Champions back up to 12 teams.
Yeah.
Oh boy, the times they have changed.
There was a perfect storm happening for Aztecs there for a moment.
Like 10 seconds.
And things do change, right?
That's right.
And I've been a witness to that, and we'll see. So I appreciate you guys letting me on.
Thanks for coming.
Greg, one thing before you leave. If it'll play here.
Yeah.
I gotta do this for you.
He might not.
Let me tell you something, Buckeye. You might be seeing us in Indianapolis. That's all I'm gonna say.
You gonna be sightseeing or what? Because you ain't coming for the title game.
Well, I may be, because listen to me. Since I've been alive, which has been 56 years, I have never seen, I've never heard, I've never smelled the hype of the quarterback that we've got, Max Brosmere. I'm telling you, we've never had hype for a quarterback, not since Tony Dungy, 1975. Okay? So all I'm saying, if we see on Thursday night, North Carolina at Minnesota, and if Max Brosmere is the guy that I think he is, buckle up, brace for impact. The Gophers are on their way mowing. Indianapolis, Buckeyes, Golden Gophers. That's all I got to say.
Let's go. I'm with you.
Topping them up for the playoff.
Let's go, Gophers.
If you can't dream on June 18th, you might as well just forget about it.
That's right. That's exactly right. Thank you so much.
See you guys
Thanks
later.
for stopping by, Greg. Man.
We'll see you later. All right, bye-bye. Oh, boy, that was a great surprise. I appreciate Greg dropping in. Oh, my gosh, some amazing.
Hey, guys, we got to get to this Florida State stuff now.
Go ahead. I'm going to change. I've lost all my bookmarks, so go ahead and start talking. I'll bring it up.
Let's pull it up. You want to sum it up, Moan?
Yeah, the guy talked for 6 hours till we got a decision.
Okay.
Talked about roundabout stories where we wouldn't that went nowhere.
Okay, this is it. I've got it up here. I'll just read it. This is from Rohan Law. That would be Doug Rohan, friend of the show. He says the ACC appeals judge Cooper's order to the First District of Court of Appeal in Florida. The ACC is seeking a determination by a higher court, basically to overrule what happened today, just like FSU is looking for a coverage in North Carolina Supreme Court, asking that Judge Cooper be bound by the precedent of similar prior cases to hold the Florida case must be stayed while the North Carolina case proceeds. Just so everybody knows what that means is today the ACC lost a huge court case And it wasn't even a court case. It was an argument in front of Judge Cooper to basically put the cap, the bottle cap, back on the Florida State appeal. They want the North Carolina judgment to go ahead first. If that happens first, whichever court rules, and we've, again, talked to Doug about this, they usually follow precedent. That's how these court cases go. And the North Carolina judge, they want that to be judged against Florida State. They want that to be ruled against them so that Florida State would have the second bite at the apple. And Judge Cooper said, no, not today.
So at the end of the day, where's the momentum moving? Where the odds moving in this lawsuit? Today was a win for Florida State.
It was. Agree? Yes, absolutely it was.
Would you agree, Moan?
Yeah.
So
I would
Florida
agree
State,
100%, sir.
100%. And like the reason that it was a win today is likely the smoke and the steam is moving to this case actually getting final decision in Florida rather than North Carolina.
That's correct.
To sum it up.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
And that's why it was win today.
And it's that race to judgment that matters. They want to be the first one to have a ruling that basically says this is what a court case has settled. That way, the other state, the alternate state's judgment, and this could go for South Carolina as well, for Clemson, has to follow that prior judicial notice. And Florida State, for rightful reasons, is trying to make that race to the courthouse faster than the judgment would be in North Carolina.
So more lawsuits, more updates to come. But today is a win for the Noles.
Yep.
And you take every win along this long sloth path that you can take, right?
Yeah.
And Florida State's doing all that they can do is stop being milked, right? The milk is evaporating here. No more milk. No more milk.
We're back to this again. Back to the milk.
It off.
Okay, all right.
Don't let him take your udder.
Oh, don't.
Sucking it dry, folks. Sucking it dry.
I don't know how we ended up.
You know what the school that sucks it dry the most is Boston College, man. Boston College and Wake Forest, they suck that udder. Man.
I heard. I was told that Wake Forest has a seat at the table at the SEC. Is that not right?
Yeah.
Monty said it. It must be true, guys.
Monty said it.
Right.
Washington, just like Duke. Duke already has its invitation to the Big Ten.
Sure.
Duke and North Carolina, they're already on the bus to Chicago. Sorry, we don't normally use other people's names, but that guy just drives us all very bonkers. Anyway, let's continue let me see if I can get to a few shout outs and then we'll get to questions. We're well into Q&A time. So if we haven't marked your comment already for notice at this point, we've probably got 200 waiting. We probably won't get there. But if you want to make sure that we cover your comment or question, make it a super chat and we'll be sure to cover it. Let's see. Glenn Lumen at the very beginning of the show says, good morning from the Philippines. What's going on with BYU basketball? Can a school buy its way into a blue blood with cash in today's world? Can BYU be the Big 12's Oregon? And the answer is yes, it can be. When you have Ryan Smith writing checks.
Gosh, Ryan Smith. Rich man.
That is exactly what could happen.
Share the wealth, dude.
Yeah. I tell people not to buy hockey tickets. Right now, the hockey tickets are going for the world most expensive price. The hockey tickets in Salt Lake next year are going to be worth more than the ones at Madison Square Garden. How does that work out? It makes absolutely no sense. It's the pent-up demand is what it is in Utah. Please appreciate it, Glenn. Good to see you here. The Almighty Finn says Glenn Lumen, BYU just got a commit from Tamika Catching's nephew. He's supposed to be a top pick in the NBA in 25. Actually, BYU has 2 lottery picks on their team right now.
Wow.
Their recruiting class today is the best that they've ever had. So you can't do that with football, by the way. Football is very hard to sort of stack a team. There's too many people. But with basketball, you can write a check. Yeah. Anyway, you guys want to add anything to that before we move on?
Good summary.
Okay. Marcus Williams, another member, says Judge Cooper kept Crow barring Miami in his ruling too. What do you guys think of that? His long drawn out answers.
Man, he reminds me of like my old my grandpa, just kind of like talking and talking and talking. This guy, he's pretty entertaining to watch and stuff for the first like 5-10 minutes. Then you're like, holy smokes. But he kept on talking about that Miami.
Did you guys follow David McKenzie's tweets today? He was going out of his mind. You guys want some fun tonight, and this is to everybody watching. In your off hours, when you're not going to be on watching the show here in a few minutes, go back and look up David McKenzie on Twitter and just follow his tweets. They start off with, oh, we could have a good day, and they end up, and he can barely put two words together coherently. He's so off his rocker. Because
he's on the other for sure.
That's how it went. As it went farther and as the longer arguments went, the least patience he had with the whole process. Always entertaining. I would recommend anybody.
It hurts to get cut off that milk, guys. I mean, I'm sure his alma mater's about to get cut off. It's painful.
That's absolutely true. Me and the Echo versus Echo Chamber says Dennis is off the liquor again.
But I'm not.
But no one is not.
Hey, Syracuse.
Syracuse and Georgia
organic
Tech.
enough, Moan?
Sure.
Illini Ted, another member, says, hey, Coy, Luke got himself a big weapon last weekend. You know what that refers to?
That refer to Luke Fickle, I would assume.
Oh, okay. Okay. Do you know what the detail is on that? I don't.
Yeah, he got a 4-star wide receiver and a 4-star linebacker last weekend.
At Wisconsin?
At Wisconsin, yes.
Wow, not an offensive lineman and not a running back.
Not an offensive lineman. He's going to build by defense.
Really? Wow, okay. Kerry Go Knowles earlier said $2 billion, you'd have to give up 20% of the league and never get that back. What's he talking? What's Kerry talking about?
I think he's talking about some private equity transaction there, Kerry. So yeah, for the billion, you'd have to give up. It's actually $1 billion. It's been thrown out there for 20% of the league. Essentially, that's how it works. They just take your future earnings up to a certain dollar amount, and get paid back that way. So the actual structural details are very hazy because of legality stuff. But yeah.
Okay, Moen, you want anything to that?
Nah.
Okay.
Keep moving.
Movie Time Blues says all this really means is that the suit could go forward, doesn't mean the university will win or lose.
100%.
But it means the suit goes forward in Florida.
Yeah.
Let's
right.
Go.
Yeah, it does. Jurisdiction matters here. That's all this is about, is jurisdiction.
Home cooking.
Yeah.
Home cooking, David.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
Skaven Yes. That's a great name. Skaven Yes says the Mayhem Conference. Do we even need to talk about the Big 12 selling?
I think that he nailed it. That's such a good dang conference names. I might actually pay into that if I were the Utes.
What is Mayhem? What is Mayhem?
The Mayhem? Yeah, that's like the insurance company, right?
It is.
Mayhem.
Oh, you're talking about the guy from the commercials.
Yeah, the Mayhem guy.
Okay, all right.
I don't know that. Who cares about the brand? It's the Mayhem guy.
I don't know. Devil Frog, the original OG of the Mafia family, says the Mayhem Conference presents the Amazon Horned Frogs versus the Dr. Pepper Bears. Having a little
There's
bit of
a way
fun
to do
with
it
the
right
naming
there.
convention right there.
Just sell your schools like name rights too while you're at it.
Arnengad says private equity is a loser for the schools forever. Ute?
It depends on how you use it. If you use it inappropriately, absolutely. 100%. If you use it right and you don't tap as much as you can get, then there might be some benefits to it. Use it, guys, use it to go after Miami, help cover some exit fees to try to pull them over to the Big 12 instead of going over to the Big 10 or elsewhere. Because once the ACC gets raided by the Big 10 and the SEC, Miami's going to be that one piece right there in the Jenga puzzle. You take that out, it's completely gone. So you take that, you pay them, help them with the exit fees, let everybody else scramble. Everybody else pays the freight, full freight. They're going to have to figure out. So
just
Miami,
like they did with Colorado in the Pac-12. They've already done this once. Why not do it again? That's how I would look at it. Amy S. says that Kerry Go knows, I think the conference can buy back the company's share if when they want. How does private equity work? Can you buy that share back if you get the money?
Oh, you can buy it back, but it's extremely expensive to buy back. And you'd have to have contract negotiation language and everything that you could buy it back too. But I'm sure that would be structured. But it's really expensive. The big idea is private equity is super expensive. It's a lot more expensive than a normal loan. But there's benefits with it, like partnerships, like relationships that you'd get. But is that worth the extra cost? And the scariest thing of all is private equity would have their fingers and their tentacles in the possible decision making of the conference, so you lose some autonomy.
Right.
That's some of that.
You weren't on the show on Friday, but one of the items that came up as we were talking about things that could or could not be attached with this private equity offering was that they would get 2 board seats. What does that even, I mean, I know what it means literally, but is that even a possibility? How would the voting interest work?
Yeah, it's certainly a possibility. And that buys you influence.
Okay.
Influence. And right. And like in decision-making power. Because all of a sudden you're basically a partner with it. You're an ownership partner. And just like it's basically you're buying in. If the Big 12 did this $1 billion deal, you could think of it this way. Basically, that private equity firm now has the influence of 4 Big 12 schools in the room.
Wow. Okay.
Because of how the money works, because of the 20% portion and everything. So they're going to get a lot of influence. There's going to be pressure to make financial-based decisions. Maybe that's a good thing, though. But it's a different thing. We're not talking about academia, right? It's different.
I think it's a shot you take, because if you don't take it and you lose, big time lose, then your conference is going to end up going the same way as the ACC very quickly. I think they have to take a chance right now to make themselves that 3rd best conference. Have to. They have an opportunity. That opportunity will not be there once Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina, and whoever else leave the ACC, and then the ACC rebuilds with G5 programs and doesn't go away. That is the worst possible outcome for the Big 12.
And it hedges something too. It guarantees the destruction of the ACC because,
yes.
The worst case scenario for the Big 12, I don't think this is going to happen, but the nightmare scenario for the Big 12 is all of a sudden Florida State may leave, but there's still really good brands left. They leave the conference and form a best of the rest conference and play a bunch of Big 12 schools. Yep. That is not outside the realm of possibility. That's a huge risk. That eliminates the Big 12. And so you cannot let that happen and go in private equity route to try to pluck Miami to finish off the ACC is maybe what you need to do to ensure survival.
I would agree with that 100%. In fact, I would even say you overpay quite a bit by even a couple $100 million to get a Miami in would solidify the conference and basically bust it up for everything else. I really would. There's almost no price that I could say would be too much for the conference to pay to bring in a Miami.
Yeah.
And Louisville's right behind them too. I would pay Miami and Louisville big money to join the Big 12. So we'll see. Time will tell. Nick Snyder says, hey, I am late, but shout out to you. You had me laughing so hard yesterday. What's he talking about?
I was on the Renegade Report show and everything, talking about Florida State, repping the Florida State and stuff. And
gotcha.
Just talking about good things like milk and udders.
Okay, milk and udders again. Okay. I was wondering where that came from. Justin R. says, so would your schools agree to private equity if one of the terms say that you can never leave the Big 12? Well, never is in quotation and has an asterisk next to it. Nothing is never. Everything can be negotiated. But regardless of what those attachments were, I don't think those invitations to the SEC and the Big 10 are coming anytime soon.
If you think signing a contract with ESPN's bad, you wait till you sign a contract with private equity.
I'm sure that's true.
You have no idea. You ain't getting out of that, man.
Yeah, so, I agree with that.
Yeah, you're really locked in if you're doing that deal.
Patrick's in the house. Baylor Patrick, good to have you here, man. CVC is known to Yormark, who had dealings with them during his NASCAR stint. Yeah, private equity has been in both NASCAR and Formula One. So, racing all around. RT, says, is there any idea what the cash infusion would be used for, specifically facilities, NIL, staffing? What exactly?
There's been talk about everything, that this cash infusion from private equity would be there to help with the NIL program. But the point that we've been trying to make, that Bill and I spoke to earlier, is that's a really bad way to invest that money if you're a sports program, because it's going to evaporate soon. Despite what John Wilner says, John Wilner is actually making the argument that you should use that private equity money to help with recruiting to boost your football program, because kids aren't going to school as much. So you're just trying to maximize your revenues today and stuff. Well, guess what? That's not changing the fact that kids are still not going to be going to school in 5, 10, 15, 20 years. That's a long-term problem. You don't solve that with borrowing a bunch of private equity money today and then costing yourself down the line. That is not a good solution, guys. And so private equity money, the way you want to think about it is for a one-time extraordinary expense, like taking out the ACC. Take out the ACC for your long-term survival. Make it a long-term play. Don't use it for short-term means. That is a finance principle 101.
Illini Ted, a member for 3 months running. Good to have you here, Ted. We get our milk at the Ohio State Dairy Farm.
We don't serve people from Illinois at the Ohio State Dairy
Seriously,
Farm.
You want to talk about milking programs? Like Florida State. Oh my gosh.
Keep going.
Moan, you might be the biggest cow out there. Seriously.
Well, Ohio State Columbus was called Cowtown, USA, because when they founded Ohio State, one of the things was it was Ohio A&M, and they had a cow field right outside the newspaper man's office. So he put byline Cowtown, USA.
Oh boy, this milk and udder thing is not going to go away. I can already tell that right now.
No, like it's not. Really, it's exactly what's happening, guys. Like Ohio State's the biggest cow, the biggest Bessie out there is getting milked more than anybody. Like I would be mad if I'm Florida State, but I'd be furious if I'm Ohio State. Like Indiana's on that udder, big time. Purdue's on that udder, big time.
Okay. Let's not scare off all the Big Ten fans out here if we can help it. Kerry Go Knowles, $5 super chat, says, Greg, listening to the likes of Dennis Dodd, a known FSU hater for decades, disappoints me. What a shame. Well, I don't know. That's what Kerry says. Sorry, Kerry. Maybe reach out to Greg and see. Maybe he can clarify exactly what he said. Want to make sure you're not misunderstanding something he meant to say a different way.
Yeah, Dennis has a really bad relationship with Knoll fans, though. There's a lot of Knoll fans that feel the same way, that he's slighted them and everything. I don't know the background there and everything. But Dennis Dodd's obviously been right about a lot. Some of the stuff surprising that he puts out there, like the valuation stuff. So, yeah, reach out to Greg.
Coy, another member for $5 super chat, says the Luke Illini Ted was talking about is the Illini QB getting 2 new transfer wide receivers.
Okay, there you go. I thought it was Luke Fickell getting that linebacker and the wide receiver.
There you go. 2 wide receivers. Cheers. 2 is better than 1. Ryan Willie, $2 super chat, says Wisconsin got T.Y. Hilton's son.
There you go.
Dude, I bet he's so dang fast.
That's pretty good. T.Y. Hilton's good breeding there. There's no doubt about that.
I can't believe that he's got a son that's going to be in college. Holy smokes.
I know. He just was playing football, it seems like. All right, guys. I think that's going to wrap us up tonight. We've got so many good questions, so much interaction tonight. I want to very much thank Bill for being here and being a part of the show. We appreciate Bill Farley. Make sure you look him up on Twitter. Any last words, Mo, and anything that's in your head that you want to make sure that you pass on to everybody for thinking about tonight?
Yeah, Notre Dame right here, pal.
There we go. All right. Ute.
I'm looking forward to the Big Freaking Friday show. Going back to back with Wiley University, Miami to the Big 12. We might pull some Miami to the Big 10 content, too, to have a real long conversation about the Canes. So if you are a Canes supporter, if you're an ACC, whatever, if you're a realignment junkie like us, you better be there Friday night because that's going to be off the hook. It's going to be fun.
I want to really thank you guys for being here with me tonight. Tomorrow, again, if there's big news, that breaks tomorrow, Moen and I will throw a show together tomorrow night, something like that. If something breaks, if not, then our next show will be Friday night at 7 Eastern. And we expect to see everybody there. If you're a member and you know other people that weren't here tonight, let them know that we're doing a members only video on Friday. And that will be after our normal Friday, Big Freaking Friday show. So if you're a member, you show up Friday night, you'll already be there. But just know that that's going to be for members only. So if you're not a member right now, seriously consider joining and becoming a member of the College Football Mafia Network family. And you can be here for that special show on Miami next week. Other than that, I think I'm done. Do you guys have anything else you want to say before we go?
Yeah, we got 157 people watching. Click subscribe, click like, leave a comment. That helps us in the algorithm.
Yeah.
Do it now. Keep me in Crown Royal. Keep me good and liquored up. Keep you saying milking them dry over and over again.
Please subscribe because we're almost to 4,000 subs.
Almost.
We need to get 4,000. Let's go. Help us push it
Less
over the
than
top.
40, guys. Less than 40. Tell somebody.
Every third person, come on, get a friend, get somebody come in and do it with us. All right, guys, I appreciate it. Thanks for being here tonight. Stay out of trouble and watch the headlines for tomorrow if we have another show. And if not, we will see you Friday night. Everybody have a great night and peace out.